Welcome to this week's episode of Lagnia-pod. I'm your host, Rob Holbert, and we have a few folks here at the Rectangular Round Table this week.
Ashley Trice.
Right
Brady
on it.
Petrie.
Kyle Hamrick.
Tommy Hicks.
Tommy Hicks. Scott is out for jury duty this week. He's in jury duty.
Drew the short stick.
Every now and
I
then
think he tried to get on.
you think as a journalist you're not going to get put on jury duty, but it can happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is quite shocking how far he's got.
Yeah, he's gone a while. Last time I was called in jury duty, I spent a whole morning there before they threw me out. But that I told him early on, just start coughing. Everybody,
Yeah.
When I was there was a woman who was really desperate to try to get out of it, and she came up with several different scenarios why she shouldn't be on the jury, and the judge kept saying, "No, that's not a problem. We can deal with that." And then finally, she just started coughing incessantly, and just coughing her head off, and he finally was just like, "All right, go home." So
Good for her.
For the folks out there who want to beat jury duty, there's the coughing, and then of course the classic Simpsons way of doing it is to say that you're prejudiced against all races.
Yes.
Yes, that's
Yeah, you have
the
a hard
Homer
time
Simpson
being
advice.
fair and impartial in every case of it.
Yeah,
But just makes you think, like, the people who want to be on juries, like,
yeah.
that's going to be who's judging you. That's your.
Well,
Yeah. Is that really the jury of your peers? I don't know.
The last time I was in there, which was I don't know, maybe a year ago, there was definitely this palpable feeling that the judge was more or less begging people to be there, to be on the jury, because it was like, I mean, he was extremely nice to Coughing Lady and some of the others who were coming up with some really clear ways they were trying to get out that didn't seem too legit.
Isn't there a new breastfeeding?
Yes, there is. Yeah. Like
I tried that. It didn't work for me.
Yeah. Where if you're a breastfeeding mom, you do not have to be on the jury.
I thought it was if you said you
Wonder
needed to go home and
how old
breastfeed.
you can pass for on that.
That's unacceptable. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Well, it didn't work. Yeah, it didn't work. Yeah, I don't know. There's definitely a lot of like pleases, and I'm glad that y'all are here. Thank you so much. Instead of that thing where you think like, show up or we're going to come drag you out of your house.
Yeah.
I got a feeling a lot of people just didn't show up. Anyway, well, enough about jury duty. We'll talk about what's in the paper this week. We've got some baby turtles on the cover. Kyle,
Yes, we do.
What's up with baby turtles this week?
They are going to be coming back. So this begins the nesting season where the turtles will...
For sea turtles.
For sea turtles.
Not just
they
your
will,
standard box turtles.
No. That happens all year long.
Yeah, okay.
But the sea turtles will flop up onto the beach, and they'll lay their eggs in the dunes and then scurry on
Some
back
of these
sea.
turtles are close to 500 pounds that they're coming
That's
up on the
right.
beach.
Yeah,
Mama turtles determined to lay their eggs.
They are coming in like a freight train to lay these eggs.
So that's all along the beaches, Alabama beaches this year.
Right.
We have a particular turtle that really likes it here. Is that the
loggerhead?
The loggerhead. He's a big, one of the worst names for a turtle. I wonder if they've ever petitioned for a different name.
Well,
it sounds like
they've got
it
such
sounds like
huge heads.
It sounds kind of like an insult. I mean, it does.
Kind of.
The jughead turtle.
Like the other
the
turtles,
old
like, hey,
jughead
loggerhead.
turtle.
But anyway,
Yeah.
it doesn't.
Meathead.
Yeah, it's like, I mean,
head turtle.
what a loggerhead. I mean, but so loggerheads love it here. We're getting more loggerheads.
They love them some bushwhackers at the Floribama, and they love to go to the Pink Pony Club,
Yeah,
or the Pink Pony Pub.
I was going to
whichever
say
one it
that's
is.
different.
When's
That's
the
different.
song? When's the
Yeah.
But so from now until the end of August, these sea turtles will come back to roughly the same spots where they were born
Yes,
to lay their own eggs.
which is kind of amazing.
Yeah, like they travel all over the world and then they come back here. Like
They don't seem
15 years
particularly
later.
bright as animals. They don't seem
No,
to
they're
have,
not.
but
No, they're
they
not.
got
They can make their way back home.
they got quality GPS.
That's
They
true.
can get right back.
That's true.
Yeah.
They've got the Waze app
Yes,
for
they
sea
can
turtles.
get
They know how to
back.
get back. But what's interesting to me that I didn't realize was they can only lay their eggs if they're at least like 15 or 20 years old.
There were some things in the story I did not know. Yes, I didn't know turtles had to be that old to lay eggs.
They take very much like the millennials. They take a long time to settle down. 20s and 30s is when they're starting to come back.
Yeah,
Start
thinking about having babies.
Yes. After they sow their wild sea oats, then they come back to Dolphin Island.
Wild sea oats.
They're wild sea oats, but. Yeah, so
you're suggesting there are singles turtle parties going on up until about that point?
Probably.
Okay. Yeah,
yes, it does.
Seaweed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, it does. So,
and also, what I didn't understand, I knew that baby turtles didn't. I knew that they did not have a great chance of survival, but this level that you were telling me about is it's really depressing.
Yeah, it's like 1 in 10,000 was what one of the experts
lives
told
to
me.
adulthood
Because. When they hatch,
they're not the brightest animals.
No,
are they?
they're not. But also,
I hate to put that out there,
hatch,
but
Brady,
but they're also not very agile on the sand.
They are not. They're being just attacked by crabs and herons and birds and dogs and raccoons, and that's before they even get in the water.
That's just when
That's before they get to where they actually live.
That's when they hatch out of their eggs, and then they just are immediately grabbed and eaten.
Yeah,
most of them.
Just massacre.
What did they call them? What was the nickname?
The chicken nuggets of the sea.
Chicken nuggets of the sea.
One expert called them. So
I thought it was like, I thought like, okay,
1 in 100.
Well, I thought maybe like only 10% or 20% make it or something like that.
Yeah.
Not like 1 in 10,000. That's
10,000.
just miserable.
It is.
So all this egg laying really more or less is just to feed other creatures is what's going on.
Some people might say that. I think that'd be a fair way to view it.
But the turtles that survive are out there. They're coming back.
Go out.
Since
2010, though, one has not come back. Since because it takes about 15 or 20 years, though.
Yeah.
This could be the year that one could come back to lay eggs on the beaches of Gulf Shores.
A 2010 turtle.
A 2010 turtle from the BP spill. Yeah.
So anyway,
that will happen till the end of the summer, and then the eggs will start to hatch by the end of October.
Well, there's some good info in there about what to do if you are in proximity to the turtles, or if you're vacationing down there and near the turtles, and do not offend the turtles. Don't shine lights at them. There's a lot of things. Yes. Don't upset them, because if you do, they'll just go lay their eggs in the ocean.
They're very fragile creatures
from a mental standpoint. Yes, they're not hardy in terms of they get easily frustrated.
Yeah.
Going to lay their eggs. So.
They spend all of their mental fortitude getting here.
Yeah.
And then it all just cracks like an egg.
Well, it's a good story, and I like the photo on the cover of the turtles going through the foam before they're eaten.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's
nice. It's a
very
challenging
hopeful
situation. We're going to switch topics to crime stats. The city this week coming out with some crime statistics that
are they totally awesome?
They are.
They're totally awesome. Yes, they are. Yes.
God.
Oh, my goodness. Anyway, they're yes, crime stats.
I stole that from Kyle.
Crime's getting better.
Surprise there.
Crime is getting better.
That's what they say,
according to the city. But I wonder if a lot of people buy that. Right?
It's really unfortunate timing for the report to come out.
Yeah.
You've had a lot of shootings at parks. You had the guy on Dolphin Street the day before the report came out that was just shooting.
Just
at cars
a random
crazy
person out there shooting at cars.
Right.
Yes.
But for the most part, crime is down. I believe violent crimes were down about 10 or 11% year over year, and the only major crime, you got robberies, rapes, assaults, things like that. All those were down. The only thing that was up last year were homicides. I think there were 5 more homicides last year. But on the flip side, they are trending down this year compared to 2024, where we were this time last year. So crime overall is down. But I mean, anytime I know we post a story about crime stats, the comments are just filled with "there's no way," they can be down, or it doesn't feel like that.
Yeah.
And Executive Director of Public Safety Rob Lasky said, pretty much that he gets it. Like, they're just numbers, and if you've been impacted by a crime, you're not going to care about what the numbers say.
Right. If somebody breaks into your house this year, you've got a crime issue in your neighborhood, right?
Exactly.
And it doesn't matter if you're the only house that got broken into this year, and last year it was 3.
Right.
So it does feel that way. And I think everybody who's been victimized or who is frightened by it. I mean, I talked to somebody the other day who was saying, that she's telling her daughter, just like, she's fearful of her daughter going to big events or things that are out in public, and because of mass shootings and things like that happened at Sage Park a few weeks ago. So, you get it. I mean, it's even if somebody's saying these numbers are statistically down, it doesn't make you feel much better.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. And I mean, like I said, crime over the past 10 years, according to the Mobile Police Department, has been, trending down significantly. I think it's down by like 24% or something over the last 10 years in terms of violent crimes. I mean, it's a good trend, but, when you've got all of these highly public, incidents, it's not like these are, happening in all domestic related incidents, or they're happening inside of homes. I mean, they're at public parks.
Yeah.
They're at, all these
I
public
think the
places
big issue, when people look at crime, especially violent crime, and, it's happening routinely in places that you don't go and you don't know very, like, what street is that? I don't know that place. It's not, it doesn't bother you as much. I know that's wrong, but it's kind of out of sight, out of mind a little bit.
Yeah.
But when it feels like, oh, this is happening
at a place
where people I might go, or
a grocery store,
people who are just standing there minding their own business, or grocery shopping, or at the park, and are getting shot or held up or whatever else, that starts to worry people.
Yeah,
and so it is it's a real issue. Obviously, a big issue in this mayor's race, which we'll talk about a little bit later.
Yep.
But we're going to take a break right now and talk with Tommy Hicks about some sports when we come back.
Down in our Alabama town, Lagnia-pod Daily is on the beat. For just $6.50, it's all the news, keeping local folks in the loop. Lagnia-pod Daily, every single morning, catching up on stories while the coffee's pouring. The local truths on every page, news for the folks of every age.
It's just $6.50 a month for Mobile's daily news, Lagnia-pod Daily. Get signed up now at lagniapmobile.com and help keep Mobile funky.
Down in our Alabama town, Lagnia-pod Daily is on the beat. For just $6.50, it's all the news, keeping local folks in the loop. Lagnia-pod Daily, every single morning, catching up on stories while the coffee's pouring. The local truths on every page, news for the folks of every age.
And we are back with Tommy Hicks. We got some baseball news this week. We've got St. Paul's had a very strange occurrence, right? Something I've never heard of in my life.
They did.
But tell us about it.
Well, they were playing Alberta in the semifinals of the 5A baseball playoffs at Alberta. As we know, there was weather issues over the past weekend. Yeah. So they got into game one. It's a best of 3 series.
Right.
So they get into game one on Friday, and weather issues come up. The St. Paul's ties the game 1-1 in the top of the 6th inning.
Yes.
And then weather comes through, lightning delay, but there had also been rain, so there's a long delay. So the officials...
Is this in the same inning?
This is in the same inning. They're in the 6th inning. Right after St. Paul's had tied the game, then that's when the lightning delay came in, and then other weather and the lightning delay and the rain stretched out that delay for a long time. Right. So the officials got together to decide what to do, and their decision was go to the national high school rule, which is that you revert back to the last full inning that was played.
Yes.
And in this case, Alberta had a 1-0 lead, and they declared Alberta the winning team of game one instead of picking the game back up the next day
Yes.
from where they were, or,
Right.
making other decisions, which would
So
have
they
made
took
more sense.
they took a run off the board basically and
Yes.
said, we're just stopping where it was previously. What happened after that doesn't count.
Correct. The St. Paul's tying the game in a 6.
There was much uproar about this.
You think? there were maybe a word of two
Yeah.
expressed in
A
disappointment.
lot of unhappiness over
yes,
this
a lot
idea.
of unhappiness. But if you're a St. Paul's fan, the story has a good ending because they came back on Saturday to play 2 games, and St. Paul's was behind in both games. They were behind 1-0 in the first game, and ended up scoring 3 late runs and win. They tied the game, and then they scored 3 more runs and won 4-1. And then in the second game, which is actually the third game of the series, the second game that day, they were down 4-0 at one point, 5-2 late, and then came back and included a 2-run home run that put them ahead, and they ended up winning game 3. And now they will play this week for the 5A state championship.
It seems like they should have at least given them that point that should have applied to another game or something like that.
You can have that
point
run
we
in
took
a later
away.
game if you need
you can
it.
name that point later. Yeah, that run. Yeah, that's crazy. But glad that they went along. So where are things now in the
Championship series this weekend? If they play one game in Oxford, play the first game in Oxford, and then the series will move to Jacksonville State. They're all right there together. And they'll play the second game there, and if a third game is needed, they'll turn around and play it. So it's a 2-day deal. I think they played Thursday. I'm trying to remember. They played first game Thursday, and then maybe the next 2 on.
I know the kids are getting out of school on Friday for the games, so I don't know if it starts Thursday night. Also, there's a St. Paul's family that has one son in the state championship and one getting married on Saturday.
No,
So
wow.
If they go to the final game, that's going to be some tough
I think
decisions.
you got to go to the wedding. I mean, I think that's that you got to go to the wedding.
Well, they'll definitely go because they'll only play one on Friday. If that's the schedule, Friday, Saturday, they'll only play one game. So they got to play at least one game on Saturday.
Yeah, I think you got to go to the wedding, folks. If you're listening, you got to go to the wedding.
Y'all got to go to the wedding.
But if you can make both happen,
great. But don't make your future daughter-in-law.
Where's the wedding? Here?
I think it's in maybe Troy.
Ooh, that doesn't help.
That's not helping. Yeah.
That's not helping.
Don't quote me on that. I don't know.
No.
It's somewhere. It's not here. No.
Yeah, that won't help.
Yeah. You can always
want to move the wedding to Jacksonville.
Yeah,
that could be
that could
be doable.
That's a tough one, but I think you got to go wedding. It's long-term anger over that.
Remember that time?
Yeah, that you'll hear that
Remember
the rest
the
of
time
your
you
life.
didn't come to the wedding?
Yeah.
And Johnny's team lost anyway.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah, that would be. Yeah. Anyway, so do we have some golf news going on as well?
Golf news.
Let's get out of the marital advice area here, and we'll.
We did have some golf news. Frances Brown, who a lot of people here, obviously, that follow golf know of her. She's at UMS. It was a 2-day, Monday, Tuesday, 36-hole event. She plays at UMS. She was 5 shots off the lead after Monday and came back and tied for the win. So she was medalist again this year for the 4th straight year. She's the first person in AHSAA history to accomplish that. And you add to it, she was runner-up as an 8th grader. So for 5 straight years, she's been number 1 or number 2 medalist in the state tournament. It was pretty impressive. She signed with Auburn. She'll be going there. So she was one of the winners. We also had Bayshore Christian won the 1A, 3A boys tournament by like 29 shots when they didn't really have a whole lot of competition.
Impressive. Yeah.
Thomas Crane of UMass also won the 7A boys individual title. And we had some teams that, finished second. And Bayside finished second, I think. And we had some Spanish Fort, I think, may have done that as well. So, we had some good representation up there. Some of the scores were unbelievable. Some teams won by like 66 shots. Well, think about that over 2 days. It's not even any competition.
Yeah, that's insane. Yeah, I mean that's or they just gather some people in the parking lot to play against them. I don't know.
Hey, you want to play? Come
on. And then USA has signed a contract to play.
They have. They will play the Florida Gators.
Playing the Florida Gators.
Open up
the
2027 season.
That will be in Gainesville.
In Gainesville. Ben Hill Griffin State.
Yeah. Get your tickets now.
Yes, you can.
Plan for your road trip.
Well, this is just a line of...
Get your jorts ready. No.
Yeah, get your jorts ready. Get out there. Go out there. It'll be 3,000 degrees for that first game. It will at least.
Another in a long line, because this year they play at Auburn.
Yeah.
Next year they play at Kentucky.
Yeah.
Then the Florida game comes, and then they play at Ole Miss in 28. And if everything stays the same, Ole Miss is coming here.
That would be huge.
In 29. That'll be pretty massive.
That'll be exciting. Yeah. Yes. That'll be cool, man. All right. Well, sounds great. I can't wait for those games. It'll be interesting to watch. Hopefully we...
unless you go to the wedding.
Oh, I'll be at the wedding. Oh, can't go. Anyway. All right. We'll be back in just a minute with a little more. Thanks. Just $6.50 a month for Mobile's daily news, Lagniappe Daily. Get signed up now at lagniappemobile.com and help keep Mobile funky. We are back, which is amazing. And so we had a little bit of news in the mayoral race. Last week, of course, we had Mayor Sandy Stimpson endorsing Spiro Cheragatis, and this week, Barbara Drummond gets an endorsement.
Yeah, the endorsements are starting to come in. Former U.S. Senator Doug Jones, through his support behind Drummond's campaign, they announced it, I believe it was Thursday or Friday of last week. So that's two high-profile endorsements so far, and Drummond her campaign has teased that she's got a couple of other huge endorsements coming. I know the AFL-CIO has also endorsed her, but they seem to think that they've got some more unique individuals that are going to come forward and endorse her.
And then I guess we'll have, I think there's another forum pretty soon. There's
next Tuesday, I believe.
Tuesday downtown, I think. And I think maybe this week there's one with Paul Prine.
It's like a one-on-one.
Speaking to the Democratic group, right?
Yeah, speaking to the Mobile County Democratic Executive Committee, I think it's the official thing. So that's going to be interesting. I mean, in the previous forum, I mean, you only got two questions, and questions could range from any topic. But I'm really interested to see how Prine performs in like kind of a one-on-one setting and is facing a more direct line of questioning. And I have a lot of questions I want to ask him personally, but I'll be interested to see, if they just, focus on the crime questions, or they ask him, about transportation, infrastructure, all the other aspects.
Yeah, the other things besides crime.
Exactly, because that's really all we've heard from him so far.
He's pretty apt to talk about that most of the time. On another subject, we have Kyle. You're working on a story, or wrote a story about the legislature, the ruling from a group of judges about our attempts to change our congressional districts, the changes in our congressional districts, and some very unhappy judges with what the Alabama legislature did at that point.
I have never read a more blistering court document in my brief time covering the courts. It was unbelievable. These judges were a panel in the case of Castor v. Allen, which is tied up to the redistricting case of Allen v. Milligan, which gave us 2 new districts.
So if you're sitting at home and going, what are they talking about? This is why Mobile got split in half. From a congressional district standpoint, why Shamari Figures is now representing part of Mobile and Barry Moore is representing another part.
Right.
And there was a redistricting, and the legislature was tasked with coming up with a redistricting program that would have 2 majority black or offer, maybe not majority black, but have a better opportunity to elect a black candidate.
Right.
And they chose not to do that.
They very much chose not to do that. And the court rebuked them for that, and said that the map that they created last summer violated the Voting Rights Act.
Right.
And you cannot use that map. The map we have with Shamari Figures and Barry Moore will stay in place. And on top of that, and this is the really big part here.
This is just more than the rebuking. This is the issue.
More than that. This is the key part of this here is they said that later this month we're going to have a hearing where we will try to determine if the Department of Justice needs to supervise all of your redistricting and all of your maps going forward,
which is called pre-clearance, which is where we were prior to that. Under these are all vestiges of the Civil Rights Act and the federal government coming down during Jim Crow and saying, okay, South, you can't. Here in the South, you got to come see us before you make any changes because you're trying to disenfranchise people, etc. Over time, things have obviously gotten better, and we moved away from this pre-clearance.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's a potential that we may get stuck back with pre-clearance because the legislature just chose not actively decided to not listen to the court's order, which was the order was you've got to come up with a plan that has 2 districts. And they said,
they did not.
No, we don't. They followed some pretty bad legal advice, apparently.
Yeah, right.
And,
some of the state lawmakers that that gave testimony in this case pointed the finger at Edmund LaCour, who's the Solicitor General for the state, who worked for Steve Marshall.
I think our own Attorney General was involved in some background of this as well. So, and so we didn't have a very good legal representation on this.
And it cost taxpayer dollars too.
A lot. Cost quite a bit. Yeah,
buckets of taxpayer
lots
dollars
of money. Yeah,
to prosecute this
to go through this whole thing. Yeah. So it's a pretty big mess. So anyway, that's your legislature at work. Good stuff.
Alabama.
Speaking of the legislature, this past week, Chris Elliott got up before the legislature and a senator from Baldwin County, and really blasted the efforts of the Army Corps of Engineers to redistribute dredge silt throughout the bay, throughout Mobile Bay. It's a process that they call thin layer placement. And this is all we wrote about this a while back. Baykeepers threatened a lawsuit, and but it really has kind of blown back up lately because of a video showing one of these hopper dredges just pouring mud back out into the bay and
spewing it near Point Clear.
And that's where Elliott saw this and said, "Hey, this is crazy. We can't do this." It's a real mess for a lot of folks. I mean, in terms of what we're doing. I mean, I think, of course, fishermen, people who are working out on the water have said the bay is getting muddier. It's getting dirtier. It doesn't look like it used to. The Corps says this is the best way to do it. Now, they had
it's providing nutrients.
Provides nutrients that have been dug out of the bottom of this 50-foot hole that is the channel, the ship channel, and that they're saying that provides the nutrients. The way it used to work was, I mean, when they had a study back in the 80s that said exactly the opposite of this, that the best plan was to take the dredge spoils and take it out into the open Gulf and get rid of it, or find upland uses for it. And so that
sense.
Went 180, and they said, no, it's not that anymore. What we need to do is it's better for us to take this dredge spoil and just kind of spread it around the bay in thin layers, which it sounds kind of gentle, like they're just going to lay it down there. But when you see what they're doing, just spraying mud into choppy water with, it's kind of hard to believe that can actually be placed with any real accuracy.
Right.
But
or with care.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is an issue that I think is going to really heat up again. I know there's another meeting this week. In fact, I think it's tonight.
I think so.
As we're recording this, so by the time you listen to this, it will have happened. But it there's another meeting with Baykeeper that's having another discussion with it, calling people from the neighborhoods and from the community to come in and talk about it. it's one. I know Elliot says he's willing to take it to Washington to talk to the Corps at that level. So, but it is a very pertinent issue at this point. Mm-hmm. Other things we've got going on, I think the business personal property tax also passed this week at the legislative level.
It just has to be signed. It's sitting in a pile of bills on Kay Ivy's desk, just waiting for her to thumb toward it.
So that's the tax we've been writing about, that where you get taxed for all your stuff in your office, and just have that go on and on forever and ever and ever. From the state level, back in 2021, they passed an exemption of $40,000, which is from the state level, which is extended to the counties. The counties have the opportunity to do that. No county has yet done that. This would extend that to $100,000. Also, the counties would have the opportunity to exempt the first $100,000 of personal business property. Mm-hmm. Oddly enough, we're going to have somebody come from the
Mobile County Revenue.
Okay, after we've been writing about this, they called us and
auditors
said,
coming.
We're going to come down
and audit, she says, but to do a spot check.
Yes, they're coming to check on us now.
Randomly.
After we've been raising hell about this,
this is just a coincidence.
But yeah, so we're going to have somebody here on Thursday, so we'll be able to talk about this next week as well about what occurred. But I know that County Commissioner Randall Dewitt has been kind of leading the charge and saying at least that they're going to strongly look at taking up the opportunity to exempt this tax. I mean, it's one of those things where, as a business owner, you don't really have time for it. I mean, you want to sit around and count up all the little things that you have in your office every year.
Rob, but no, it's so easy, says the auditor. All you have to do is log into your account, and every time you throw something away, just exit off.
When you throw something away,
because that's what you want to
take it off, and you remember to go to the Revenue Commissioner site and take it off so you don't get charged for it the next year, versus the fact that you've already paid sales tax on these things. This is so. I mean, from folks who don't have a business, this would be the equivalent of having to go through your house every year and count up all the furniture in your house and pay a tax on it again. This is the same thing. It's a ludicrous tax, and it's very redundant and regressive. So, I mean, I think it just makes no sense whatsoever. But I think there's like 36 states in the country that do it. Something along those lines. We're not alone in this, but it is certainly something that I think would help a lot of small businesses, if not from a tremendous amount of money. It isn't a.
It's more of a time suck.
It's a time suck, and it's also the opportunity for local government to come into your place and start counting your stuff.
Yeah, I mean, do we want? I mean, it's going to feel weird to have this person in our office just looking around. I mean, I'm just
Well,
nobody wants Big Brother coming in.
I guarantee if we started asking them questions about their stuff, they would tell us that we don't want to, what they've always done. We're not talking about that. So it's interesting stuff, but we'll see where it goes from there. And that's all we have this week for Lagnia-pod. Keep voting. Nappies are going strong right now.
Yep, through June 1st.
All right, folks. We'll be back next Thursday. Y'all have a great week.
The Lagnia-pod is a Something Extra publishing production. Executive producers are Rob Holbert and Ashley Trice. Music is by Some Pulse Sounds and Electro Animals. Only subscribers like you have access to this podcast. Tell your friends they can sign up at my.lagniapmobile.com. For advertising opportunities, please call 251-450-4466.